Hi everyone. So I'm going to do a Q&A today with my lovely husband Catzmagick, Daniel, and I have Nina Starsong with me as well. I asked her if she'd like to give me some assistance on my Q&A, so I thought it's nice to have a second perspective. So if I respond, or if you respond, if there's anything that you feel that I've missed out, Nina, or a different viewpoint, please come in with that. And even if you're in disagreement with me, fully welcome that. So not that hasn't usually happened when we've spoken, though. We haven't usually disagreed, but
no, please disagree. Just to wind her up.
But if there is something you disagree with, please say. So
that never usually works between you and me when I want to disagree with you.
Did I not warn you before we started recording?
Okay, right.
Did I not say he's going to mess around and be silly? Okay, so
you said.
Neither myself nor Nina have any idea of the questions that Catzmagick is going to ask us. So
okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me get these up here. So I've got 4 questions today. I thought I'd start off gentle. It's not really that esoteric. Well, I guess it could be. But I thought not every question can be like epic and, world encapsulating. So the main reason I picked this question is because the lady, bless her, she was like, please ask Magenta the answers to this. But it's fairly mundane, or is it? So I'd be interested to hear both your perspectives, because this is very much a female question. And it simply is, it's from a lady called Linda, by the way. Did I say that? Yes, no? Okay. It's from Linda, lovely Linda, and she asks, could you ask the 9 what are hot flushes about? I think in America they call them hot flashes.
They do in America.
So, yes,
hot flashes, isn't it, in America?
What are hot flushes about? So I'm going to go now and leave the sensible people, so I'll mute myself. So I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. So, yeah, Nina, wow, what a question. So,
oh, I know, that is quite the question, really.
I mean, Daniel's saying, is it an esoteric question? It's quite mundane. No, it's very esoteric. So from my point of view, yes, in the UK, we call them hot flushes. I'm aware in the US, you say hot flashes. There are two, in my opinion, and from the information I've had from the 9, there are 2 different things this could be. If you are sensitive to certain foods, you can cause this to happen, which is like a sort of a reaction to perhaps too many carbs or too much sugar. So that isn't necessarily the cause, but that can actually trigger it. So it can be to do with food. But the 9 have said to me that when you move through a Kundalini awakening, you will have these hot flashes. So this can occur with the men as well, but very much with the women. And the reason why we go through hot flushes when we get to a certain age, when we go through menopause, it's often marketed, or it is marketed across the world as being a side effect of menopause. But the 9 say that the women, you come into the wise woman energy around the time of menopause. You're no longer in your creative phase of being pregnant and giving birth. You go into the sort of the wisdom phase where you are advising the younger women. And this is when you go through Kundalini raising. So the rushes, the flames, the fire surges of Kundalini raising feel just like a hot flush. But on the other hand, this can be triggered by food, and it could occur if you're eating something that doesn't agree with you, or if you're eating foods that are not very healthy. Too many carbs can cause this, too many refined carbs can cause this. So it can be a dietary thing, but it's also the sign of a Kundalini awakening. And what I found when I was going through a lot of hot flushes when I first went through the menopause, instead of trying to fight them, I found that I would go with them, because I've had a lot of friends, oh, aren't they awful? And they take you over and you feel terrible. And I felt, well, no, because this is naturally happening to me. So I would go with them and know that this was part of my spiritual journey and part of being a wise woman. I don't know if you're at the age where you're having them, though. You're younger than me, so I don't think you would have had them yet, would you? But do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I've never had them, but I've seen my mother go through them, and I've seen all of the women around me go through them. And I did notice there was this sort of programmed thought about, oh, they're so awful. And so every time that I see anything where the feminine is supposed to dislike something that's natural, whether it be her moon time or hormonal things that we go through, I notice that there's a choice. You can either see it as like a curse, it's so awful, which creates that reality. But what I was really feeling into is it's like an initiation. And that if they were to really go with this, as you just stated, it is the Kundalini, it is an initiation, it is sacred fire, and it's a new phase of life and connection in your own spiritual growth and awakening. And when I look into it right now, what I see is all of the grandmothers and the elders sitting around the sacred fire together, leading the younger women. And that this would have been a beautiful experience to go through together in holding this sacred space and container, bringing through this higher wisdom and stepping into this new role as the wise elders. And I wish that we had this understanding, because women have been separated from this, which creates this very distorted experience around it, and something you're meant to be humiliated or embarrassed by. And then you see women, fanning themselves, and it's really seen as this, it's been made fun of in movies and such. And then you see this as a younger girl, and you grow up and you just repeat this pattern. But if we were to shift this, we could see it as, wow, what a beautiful thing to be stepping into this Kundalini sacred fire energy. So I completely agree with what you shared. And then also the body, if it takes in a vibratory resonance that it's not aligning with, I know my body will often push things out with fire. It's like this sacred fire comes up and to try to transform the energy or transmute it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I would see it. And you explained that really lovely. And I would say to the lady who wrote this, who asked the question, look at the diet that you're on, look at what you're eating, maybe make some tweaks, get as healthy as possible. Then you know that it isn't something that you're eating. If you're eating a high vibratory diet and everything you're bringing into your system is clean, then you know it's not the foods. So then you are looking at these energy rushes, as you say, this sacred fire, and you can work with those energy rushes and be in gratitude for them, rather than going with the standard mainstream view of them, which is, oh, it's because you're going through this certain age and this happens, it's because everything's, you're getting older and everything's going wrong and you've lost your fertility and you're no longer any use as a woman. That is all anti-life, hijacked belief. You are coming into your power when you come into this age. All of the ages of the female, all of the ages of the male, each of them bring their own power, each of them bring their own gifts, and they're each phases to be welcomed and to be in gratitude for. So don't see hot flushes or hot flashes as a curse, as something wrong. Take it as a cue that you might need to look at your diet, and if you feel your diet is healthy, then this is a sacred blessing, and this is you going through the sacred fire of awakening and Kundalini. That is clearly our response to that question. So Daniel, you can return and ask us another question.
Okay.
Here
you just reminded me, what's that? You got some wonderful book a while back. I think it was called The Wise Woman's Way.
I did buy a lovely book about, I can't remember the title, but I did buy.
I think it was called The Wise Woman's Way.
It was all about the phases of the female, and all the things that the woman goes through. And I resonated very much with that book, and it was beautiful, but I can't remember the name of it. But when I first went into menopause and started experiencing hot flushes, which happened to me, it's like perimenopause first. You don't just sort of go into menopause. It takes a while. I had my own connection with the 9 and my own information about what was happening, but I saw this book and bought that as well, and it was lovely. So yeah, I can't remember the title of it though. I've got so many books.
The Wise Woman's Way. I keep saying it. It's
Okay,
called The Wise Woman's Way.
I think I've heard of that book. May I just add one thing, because it kind of rushed in, specifically to the woman that asked this question. I feel like what I'm hearing is she needs to make sure her diet is extremely alkaline, because also it just seems like her diet's way too acidic. So they're saying a lot of water and lemon, cucumber, greens, go in the direction of greens, not in the directions of chocolate and coffee. It sounds like I'm getting, no coffee, no stimulants, no chocolate, and you're wanting to really more stay in a neutral and alkalizing manner, which is related to the spirit and the emotions and the energetic frequencies as well, which of course is in your book as well, Magenta, because it's all about the diet of life and the Lemurian diet. So yeah,
it is. And I would also say, I mean, I got to the point where I could tell if it was dietary or if it was Kundalini flashes, Kundalini fire, when you've eaten something that your body doesn't agree with. And obviously, if you're not at menopause, you may not have this reaction. So this is more specific to a woman going through perimenopause and menopause, but this could happen at other times as well, but it's specific to that time more so. So if you eat something that isn't agreeing with you, the hot flush or hot flash seems to be more intense. It seems to be like it's not an attack, but like it's coming at you, and that you are sort of passive to it, and that you have no ability to stand in empowerment of it, because obviously you've eaten something that's toxic to your body. When it is a Kundalini raising, and it is nothing to do with a toxic food item, this is a natural raising of energy. It feels like it's coming up from within you and raising your vibration, and it actually feels more pleasant. It doesn't feel like it's taking over you. It feels like you're riding with it and utilizing it, and it's part of you, and it becomes magical. So there are two ways of looking at it, but I agree with you. This particular lady, what was her name again, Daniel?
Her name was Linda, and whilst you were talking, I did just look the book up, and it is indeed called The Wise Woman Way by an author named Susan S. Weed.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think you're correct on that book. Yeah, thank you.
I am correct. I just looked it up.
Correct. Yeah. The lady that wrote in, I would say there does need to be a tweaking of the diet. I feel. Yes, with this person. Obviously, I wasn't going to go in individually. I was going to answer the question like generally, but seeing as you sort of zoomed in on the person, I would agree with you. I think there does need to be some dietary tweaking there, and then you will find that the hot flushes become pleasant. And it's not your diet if you are having the alkaline foods and the greens and the smoothies, and the diet is packed with alkaline foods and it's healthy. It isn't a toxic reaction. It is the Kundalini raising, and men go through this as well. This is the thing, it's not just women. Men will have Kundalini fire flashes, especially men who go into channeling, direct link and channeling. When you go into channeling in that communication, especially if you're working with someone else, a client, or doing a talk, or bringing forward direct voice channeling, but even when you're writing it out, you will go through these raises of energy and this heat, because you are bringing forward so much more higher energy than you normally do when you go into that state. It doesn't have to be channeling, it can be any kind of spiritual connection. So you're flooding the body with a substance that's very similar to and has the same molecular structure as DMT, and this creates like a fire within the body. So yeah, it's just learning the difference. But the number one advice I would give to any woman going through this is to be in gratitude for it. But if you are eating the refined carbs, especially in junk food, it's not going to be pleasant. Your hot flushes are going to be horrible, and you will see it as a curse. But if you can get the diet right, then you can work with the magical and spiritual side of this fire.
Okay. I thought of a really rubbish joke, but I'm not gonna
No, go on. Let's hear your
destroy.
Go on.
Okay, well,
As long as it's not
since
rude.
you ask,
I don't want
no,
any
not
rude.
really. Oh, it might be a tiny. No, I'll leave it.
No, is it rude? Seriously, I was joking.
It's not. It's not rude. It's just a bit cheeky.
Go on. Go on, say it. You've started now.
I know, but
You have to say it.
But it's English humor. It might not be appreciated by everybody's silly English humor. All right. What happened to the lady who got her kettle and her toilet mixed up? She had a hot flush.
Fair enough.
So disrespectful.
That's no, it's not. It's funny. It's fine.
I don't want to be disrespectful. Let's go to the next
That's not
question.
disrespectful.
Yeah, I've got a quick
Funny.
I've got a quick health question though. I don't know if this isn't for either of you. I just thought if anybody else has noticed this strange thing, because I don't know if it's just me or if it's a glitch in the matrix. But with glasses, obviously everybody who uses glasses, each eye is usually a different prescription. But I've noticed bizarrely, if obviously I can't see it out properly out that way or that way, but if I turn them around that way, I can see just as clearly that way, which doesn't make sense to me because that's the left eye and I'm looking through the inverted left eye with my right eye. And is that universal of all glasses? Because it's really messing with my head.
I have absolutely no idea.
Maybe somebody can write. Maybe somebody can.
I've been asked. I have no answer to. I can never answer Daniel's questions because they're so bizarre. Any ideas, Nina?
Maybe somebody can write and just explain that to me. If it's just something to do with the ocular system. Anyway, that's completely nonsense. So let's just go with the sensible questions. Yes?
It probably is because the glasses, the lenses are created for you to be able to see through in your everyday life. You're not supposed to turn them round and look through them the other way, are you?
But it doesn't make sense to me that that's the right lens. And if I invert it, it also works my left eye and vice versa.
Okay, so if we have any opticians in the house, please can you respond to this question?
Okay, all right. So now I'm going to crank it up a notch.
I can answer.
I'm going to crank it up a notch now and ask some more serious global questions, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But thank you to Linda for that question.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, so the next question is from a gentleman named Thomas. Can you still hear me good on this, yeah?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
All right. This is from a gentleman called Thomas, and he asks, why does there seem to be so many celebrities, actors, musicians, writers, who are so gifted with such wonderful talent, who then ultimately turn out to be immoral and corrupt people?
You want to answer this one, Nina? You're probably, this is your forte, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I would really love to answer this question. Well, because a lot of people who have been gifted talents do not realize their gifts. And if you are not honoring where those gifts come from, I noticed in the industry, you either had people that were self-centered or were, I would say, source or group-centered. But if someone was self-centered, they really believed that that wasn't a gift, it was them, and they kind of sort of became their own god in the entire situation. Whereas if you understand it's a gift, you understand that when you hold a gift and you've been given a gift, it comes with great responsibility, but you honor where that gift has come forth from. And so when you make yourself the sender of the gift and go, oh, yes, aren't I so amazing? So I feel like, to be honest, I feel like that's always been in them. And that became pretty clear to me going through the entertainment industry. And to be honest with you, I wasn't cut out for it. It destroyed me because I didn't have that in me. And I didn't realize that that's really what was needed to succeed in the industry. I didn't want to destroy other people. I didn't want to play that horrible game. So I don't think it's that they turn out that way. I think that it's already in them from the time that they were children. Something in them said, oh, haha, you know, I have this thing and this, I don't serve source, I serve self. also there's temptation and there's seduction, and that's very real. And along that road, you have a choice every step of the way. I had some amazing opportunities to view the temptation. I wasn't ever interested, but I was like, wow, this is so real. I mean, they really do come to you and say, we'll give you the world, but you have to essentially sell your soul. And so if you're so attached to that thing and you believe that that thing is more important than your connection within, and you're chasing that, and that becomes what you need to feel love or to attain love, you'll do anything to get it. And all along, you'll be this carrot chasing this, you'll be this like rabbit chasing this carrot. But once you get the carrot, it's never enough. So then you have to chase another carrot, and so on and so on. And I think that's how these people go deeper and deeper and deeper into this web is, all right, well, I've tasted this level of this carrot. Now I just have to give a bit more of my soul. The next thing you know, you've completely given yourself away. So that's what I saw a lot.
Yes, I would totally agree, Nina. It's a hijacked industry. And also, I think it's important to realize that talent and the ability to be highly creative does not necessarily go hand in hand with a personality that is of integrity and goodness. You can have a person who is, not a very nice person, who can still access high creativity and have a talent. And what this is that this is the activation of some of the chakras. If you want to use the chakra system as a sort of a metaphor or a model to explain what's happening, you can have a very developed third eye chakra. So you could have someone who is highly talented with writing or the understanding of music or teaching or whatever, acting, whatever it may be. But they don't necessarily have to have opened the heart or grounded with the solar plexus, the power center, or worked with the base chakra. So that's why when you go into the industry of music and drama and acting and Hollywood and all those things, you're going to have an eclectic mix of people. And it is an industry that is open for hijacking because it's a money-making industry. So many people who do make it have often, as you say, done something to sort of sell their soul to the devil, if you will, to get where they're going, because they will have been bribed. And there will be and there are individuals out there that are extremely talented but had a righteous personality and who refused to live that way. And those people are not famous. You've never heard of them because they didn't take that bribe. Having said that, not every single person in the industry who's made it in Hollywood is going to be a bad person, but the majority are in this den of snakes kind of reality, certainly in the industry where they're at the top, whether it's music or drama. But I mean, I did a lot of amateur dramatics. I did mix with the professional theatre because my parents were in the professional theatre, and I did do some professional work, but it was mostly amateur stuff that I did because I moved away from that as a career. And what I would find with creative people is, just like the person asking the question, someone would be extremely talented to the point of being a genius. And you'd admire them so much and think, wow, you are just unbelievable. And then there would be this flaw in the personality. And you'd think, how can you have such a talent that you can admire and be so flawed in this area? And what that is simply exercising the ability to move into high creativity without working with the shadow. So often a lot of people in the theatre would ignore the shadow because they're not there to work on the shadow. They're not thinking to themselves, I'm on a journey of discovery. They're thinking, I want to fine tune my ability, my talent. So they will practice obsessively their music, or they will obsessively practice their drama. And that's all they will think about 24/7, to the point of being quite an unpleasant person to be around. Yet when they produce their work, it's brilliant. So yes, that happens a lot, but obviously not with everyone. There are balanced people and I know people in the television world that are deeply spiritual as well, and have worked with that as a journey, and they are on a path of enlightenment simultaneously. And there are starseeds in every industry.
Absolutely. I wanted to add something because I remembered this, and I'm glad I remembered it. The other thing that happens is when you are taking on a role, some people get so attached to that character that they don't know how to disconnect. And I've actually experienced friends completely, it's almost as though they become possessed. And I do see that actors or people that are musicians that start channeling when they're performing or when they're acting, they might not be aware of the energy or the spiritual energies that they're channeling. And so if you're playing the role of a rapist, or you're playing the role of, I had a friend that had no boundaries in that realm whatsoever. He would shapeshift into these characters. It would take over his entire life, whether he was on stage or off. He would act like that, and he had a huge drinking problem. So it can be very connected to letting in these energetics. There's a very spiritual aspect to it. And I had a teacher when I was in one of my acting classes. She was actually, what she didn't realize she was saying, but what she was essentially telling us was, use your past lifetimes, use the collective energies to pull these memories forth within yourselves. Well, that is a beautiful thing, but you need to be very cautious to know when you're putting that hat on and when you're taking it off, and that you have spiritual boundaries. And most actors, performers have no idea that they're doing that. So I saw a lot of what I would call possession by opening up to these energetics and not having any type of boundaries with it.
Yes, that's absolutely accurate. And the 9 would say to you, we trained her this way. So the drama that I did, that's how I was trained to be a channel, but I didn't know that at the time. So, I mean, I don't know if I was in a state of possession, but I know that when I was portraying a character, that character would become me. I would become them. There would be not just a merge, but I would allow the character to take over me. And I did it really well as well, you know, especially with like improvisation. I would freak some of the people out in my classes as a young child, because I wouldn't even know what I would be doing. And when I was playing a part, I would be saying things that this character would say, and you know, freak out my fellow sort of students in training, and I'd freak myself out. Obviously I now know, and the 9 have told me, that this is how I was trained. So I would have been given a training ground, and there was a safety there for me. But I always believed that what I was doing was because I wanted to be an actress. I know it's actor now, but you know, that's what we called female actors were actresses back then. I wanted to be on the stage, you know, I wanted to follow my parents' footsteps. My father was an opera singer and my mother was a dancer, as I've spoken to you about this before. And everything I did was for that. I had no understanding whatsoever that this was something else, that I was being trained for something else. I didn't know. So yes, I would definitely agree with you. I thought I was just really good at characterization, really good. And that's what my teachers would say. You've got a really vivid imagination. You're able to draw a character in, and I could put that into text as well. So when I was reading my lines, you know, it wasn't just about improv. When I was reading my lines, I would read the lines as if I was that character. So that is what the 9 call high creativity, and there are layers to it. So high creativity is kind of like the highest echelons of the 4th dimension, and if you're using that as a model, and the lowest sort of levels of the fifth dimension, that's high creativity, and there are many degrees of creativity. So when you're doing this, that is partially kind of a spiritual act, you're in that high creativity. When you move into channeling, obviously you're leaving that, you don't leave it behind, you're integrating it, but you're moving way above that. So when you're channeling, you're moving into the fifth dimension and beyond. So I'm really thankful for the drama training I had, because when the 9 came to me, when White Spirit came to me and I could sense their energies, it was so similar to acting. And I used to say to them, are you just a character? Am I just acting again? And they would explain, well, yes, in a way we are. Let us explain to you the difference. And that's how I learned about the dimensions, because they were different. They weren't characters that I felt I'd conjured up through my imagination that didn't exist. They were beings that did exist in that dimension, but in a higher dimension. So if I was portraying a character that was someone who had actually lived, then I could portray that person. Many of the characters I portrayed were just fictional characters written by the playwright. But were they, they would have been drawn from somewhere. So that can have its dangers, as you've said, the Stanislavski method acting, where they live. I mean, it's a brilliant form of drama. I mean, Marlon Brando, one of the best actors, Marlon Brandon, is it? One of the best actors that's ever lived. He used that method, and they live their character even off screen, and it's fabulous, the creativity. But the dangers, you can start manifesting what that character would have manifested. You can bypass your own reality and merge with the reality of the actor. So yes, it has to be done with awareness. And I think there are many actors that don't realize it's a spiritual path that they are on. So there is the danger of reaching the lower fourth dimensional levels rather than the higher fourth, which is the high creativity. So everything you've said is accurate. And wow, what a good question.
Great question.
Wow, fantastic response.
Well, can't you?
I was just thinking about Stanislavski, actually. What you were talking about there, it started reminding me of when I was younger. I was so desperately shy, and I used to see all the kids on the drama course, and I was equally terrified and in admiration of all of them. And it wasn't until I was like in my 20s till I actually started actually getting into some acting. And it's only in retrospect, I think maybe, just like you two were just exploring there, I could see that the dark side of that creativity and that wonderful ability to express and entertain and engage people, if it isn't tempered with respect and wisdom and a measure of humility, it can go really weird in people. And you can only imagine how much that's amplified in like the professional industry. So really interesting what you were saying about the Stanislavski method. I remember when I went to uni for a little while to study acting, and obviously that's one of the core most used templates, the Stanislavski books. I would ask my lecturer really awkward questions, because part of it is about drawing back personal traumatic memories to encapsulate it so you could get the emotion and how your body moves, what have you. And I would ask really awkward questions, and I would say, but how can I bring back a trauma to myself based on something that's happened in reality if I feel like I've overcome that trauma? Because then, like, it would be like inauthentic. It's like, I don't know what's a good example. Say I'd been terrified by a spider in my life. This really basic example, but I had since completely overcome my fear of spiders. Therefore, how do I bring back the feeling of being terrified by a spider when it no longer exists in me? But my lecturer would just look at me blankly. And I always had this notion, like all actors and everybody in the entertainment industry almost had this elevated wisdom over everybody. And I think that's what intimidated me so much when I was younger. But to be honest, my lecturer just looked at me blankly and just kind of said, it sounds like you should be on a psychology course, Daniel. So I never really got an answer. So after that, I just kind of like, I just did what I was told after that. Because yeah, I absolutely, I think anybody going into deep creativity, you're absolutely right. It's a spiritual journey. It's not just about, and I think the emphasis in any kind of performance, whether it's writing or music, Nina will appreciate this. It's to make the show or the piece or the play look fantastic first and foremost. It's not about you. If you are part of that and you've drawn something in and you've made the entire thing fantastic, even if you're just doing a monologue or a solo, you're in service to that energy. You're a conduit to that energy. It's not about you. It's about flooding it out into the world so that other people can access it and ultimately be inspired by it, so that it ignites something within themselves. And I think that's the best kind of performance, when people come away and they're not in awe. It's almost like it gives them permission and it reminds them of that fantastic spark within themselves that they can go away and explore themselves.
I would say to all three of us, because Daniel and I met through drama. We met at the amateur drama group. That's how we met. And I would say to all three of us, and I think all three of us would probably feel the same. If we were to go back into drama now, and we were to take on a role in a play, and that role involved us becoming hysterical or very angry, committing a violent act, saying words of darkness and anger, I personally would find that difficult to do, because I've moved away from that. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't do it, and I'm not saying I couldn't do it without manifesting a response. I could do it without manifesting a response, and I would know how to take on that role without manifesting a law of magnetic attraction reaction. But would I want to? Would I get pleasure and enjoyment in the way that I did for all those years? Would I get pleasure and enjoyment from portraying a character that I had to, like you're saying, Daniel, your fear of spiders that you've overcome, you have to go backwards into the past, into a trauma you've already resolved in order to portray that. And would I want to do that? Unless the actual performance was in some way going to add towards the ascension of the planet, I personally wouldn't want to, and I wouldn't feel comfortable doing so. Same with fiction writing. My mum says to me, "You always said you were going to write a novel. I know that you've written all these spiritual books and they're lovely, but when are you going to write a novel?" My novel will be so boring because all my characters will just be so sweet and lovely. I don't want any murderers or nasty people in my novel. It would be boring. There'd be no conflict, because I don't want to go back there to those emotions unless they are part of an organic integration and teaching. Do you guys feel the same?
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same. It would be, I had to kind of make that choice, because when I realized how powerful these energies were, and also being a part of a play or a performance, you really become a family. And a lot of the people that I was working with had major addiction issues. So they were bringing a lot of spirits into the energetic space, and then you're opening yourself up, channeling energy coming through. And it just got to a point where I just realized, wow, I've never been about the fame, and it was always about touching people's hearts, but ultimately it was about using the gifts that were given to me to serve. So right now, the ascension and assisting people in this time of awakening and playing that role, because I really see us all on this stage of Source's stage, and we're playing these roles. And so I'm way more interested in playing my galactic role than anything right now. Yeah. Anything in the 3D, I'm just not even interested by it anymore. So I'm like, this is the most exciting theatrical production that we've ever been a part of.
That's it. This is the most exciting movie. This is the most exciting book. I was saying this the other day, but also you can use dramatic art, as a teaching tool for channeling, if you will, itself. Because as you move into an improvisation of a channel, even if you're not one, and you start pretending that you are one in your improv, then you can draw down that energy. Obviously, you would need to have a facilitator, somebody who understood channeling as well as drama. At one time, I really wanted to do drama stroke channeling workshops. I didn't get round to doing them, but I wanted to, and I know that I could do those. But Daniel, we talked about this a lot at one point, and I don't suppose you'd like to share your journey with Emerald Ascender and what actually, it's such a brilliant story, and what actually happened to you and what the drama teacher said to you. Can you, as we're on the subject, can you share that?
Oh, okay. I don't want to big it up too much, but as you mention it, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I was going to an evening acting class, and one of the exercises that they were doing, they just wanted everybody to just think of a character, and then you had to be interviewed by a journalist and answer in character, in the role, as if any question that came at you. So it was a mixture of improv and creating a character. So some people would be like a boxer or a farmer, or some people would try and do something a bit more advanced, like a refugee, something like that. And to be honest, I was kind of struggling to come up with something, because I think everybody felt like they had to outdo each other in terms of creativity. But then I thought, I'll just think of something I kind of know. And like I say, this is 4 or 5 years ago.
Daniel, it was longer than that.
Was it longer than that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Time is such a amorphous
7 years
right now.
7 years.
No, you're probably right. Yes, it was. Yeah, probably longer. Time is so weird at the moment. But I just thought, I'll do what I know then. So obviously I work with the highly esteemed Magenta Pixie. So I thought I'd just do a variation on that, because I'd been around Magenta's work so long. I kind of understood how to speak and how to think. So yeah, I guess that whole time I was benefiting from your wisdom working with you. So I just randomly picked this name out called Emerald Ascender, because obviously in the New Age community, lots of people like to have very colorful names.
Yes.
So yeah, Emerald Ascender sounded good. And then I sat there, and the guy interviewed me, and I introduced myself, and I said that I channeled the triad of light. That was like my guidance system. And I can't remember specifically what I said, because I didn't really plan it. I just spoke and spoke and spoke. And then at the end of it, the drama said, "Is that what you do?" And I said, well, no, I was just creating a character. I said, it's based on somebody I know. But and then he started talking to me about all these kinds of things. And when I was recounting this to Petra, Magenta, I don't tend to call my wife Magenta, she's Petra. Okay. She said that would be, the thing is, by acting the character, even though I was doing it in a semi-whimsical kind of way, that's actually a way to connect. And we were kind of sort of thinking about, maybe we could make some kind of workshop based on that, where you literally just, I don't know, to some degree, pretend that you're connected, and then it's like, maybe that will come through. Maybe just like if you begin acting a certain way, you do actually draw in other things, which helps you with your performance. So yeah, that was interesting. Although the Emerald Ascender character is, I did actually make a silly website, an Emerald Ascender website, which was actually meant to be a parody it's still up there, actually. It was meant to be a parody of New Age teachers, and I took like snippets of lots of different people and the way they wrote on their website and all the different therapies that they offered and all the titles that they had awarded themselves. And like I said, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I've got a massive respect for authenticity, but I created this mock New Age website. But then Petra showed it to her friend, and her friend said, but it just looks like a normal New Age website. It didn't even come across like it was a parody. Yeah. But it really was. And I was offering all these different therapies. And it did say right at the bottom, this is 100% parody. But it had all these different therapies, like obviously DNA activation is a prerequisite. So that was right at the bottom of the list. That was the cheapest one. And there was stuff like soul reintegration, catalytic, amorphous, photonic energy, light vibe therapy stuff, just a whole string of words. And but I did actually come up with something I thought was quite original, which was there was past life regression, but there was also future life selection. So if you feel like you've done rubbish in this life and all your past lives have sucked as well, you can actually, if you pay a sender, you can choose in advance how fantastic your next incarnations will be. So you might be having a terrible time now, but in 1,000 years' time, you'll be owning it. You'll be smashing it. So, yeah. But like I say, this wasn't born out of disrespect. It was born out of, well, a creative exercise. So any form of creativity is good. So, yes, maybe one day we'll actually become Emerald Ascender, which started as a drama exercise, then a comedy character. Maybe it will actually evolve into something more distinct, or maybe I'll just leave it alone.
Well, first of all, as you think, so you are. So if you really, truly are working with that role, that can actually connect you, which is what the 9 mean when they say, this is the tool they used for me to be able to connect with them. And secondly, humor is wonderful. And I think for us to take the whole New Age movement so seriously that we're like, don't you dare pretend to be a channel and take the mick out of me, because this is sacred. You're taking it too seriously. This is something we must be light about. Of course it's serious, but the seriousness comes from dedication and integration and the focus. I mean, look at JP Sears.
I love him.
I love him. I think he's fantastic. And the other thing I was going to say is you can actually select your future life from this lifetime. I mean, that's advanced work. It is part of Ascension. It is what we are doing. We can project what we want into a future life. I mean, usually what happens with someone who's spiritually aware and is able to pick things up, you'll start to feel your next life being prepared for you. And you can choose. You can say, well, I don't want to leave this life yet. I still have work to do. So I've often seen, when my father, before he passed away, I knew there was another lifetime being prepared for him. And I could see that lifetime, and I don't know whether he necessarily took any part in creating it, but you can do that. You can do that, but it's not something we need to necessarily manifest while we're here and now, especially in this reality for 2020 and the whole ascension and the takedown of the cabal and all of those things. But yes, you can do it. It's not so easy as the way Emerald Ascender would put it, as future life selection. That's a comedic aspect of it, but of course, because there is no future, past and present, please put a link to Emerald Ascender's
I just looked it up just now, so I won't read you the full description, but I just found my selection of therapies. There's 5 different therapies to choose from. They all kind of build on each other. And obviously, you have to price them accordingly with a sacred number. So the bottom one is DNA activation, $33. Then past life cleansing, $108. Future life selection is $333. Spirit vitality retrieval is $444. And then the ultimate one, I've named energetic vortex reintegration therapy, is $144,000. But don't worry, you can't actually buy these. It is just a parody website.
And I mean, I don't want people to think that, you know, you're taking the mick out of the New Age community. It's
I'm
just
absolutely that.
little...
That is not it at all. I've got the deepest respect for all forms of spiritual exploration, and if anything, it's inspired by my studies, and it's all about, like you say, injecting that humor. If you take things too seriously, or if you don't treat them with the respect they deserve, it's about getting that balance right. So just to reassure everybody, it's not born out of mockery. The only person I'm mocking is myself for being so silly.
But Daniel is a little bit of a comedy person. I mean, he mocks me all the time, so I could never take what I do seriously to the point where I become, you know, too sort of what's the word? Too precious about it. You know, I have great respect for my own work, but I can laugh at myself and see the funny side of it, which is why I find someone like JP Sears funny, because Daniel's always, you know, he's always teasing me and pretending to be me and dancing around the house, you know, making funny faces.
I do not tease. I wouldn't say I'm teasing. No.
You know,
marriage counselling, please, Nina.
I love it though, because I laugh at myself all the time. Like, I laugh at this whole thing in my mind. I see us all as these galactic, you know, X-Men warrior types that are up against the cabal with our like Starseed rainbow guns and all of our indigo, and we're like these Starseed children running around on planet Earth that got to come here, and it's amazing. So I'm always laughing at it, and when I hear myself singing and speaking in star language, I'm like, I'm so weird. I'm such a weirdo. I'm so out there, you know? So I'm always laughing at myself. Yeah. The inner child in us doesn't want to take this seriously. And I don't want to take this seriously.
About playing, play.
It's about playing.
Play.
Yeah. We're in this movie and this awesome play, and we get to play the roles of our life. I mean, wow, we get to play Starseeds of Ascension. We thought we wanted to be in Star Wars, but we're in it. We didn't even know that. It's amazing.
We get to save the world together.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take that viewpoint to find that lightheartedness and raise that light, especially now.
Yes.
There's a Christian TV minister, and he is a breath of fresh air. His name's Jesse Duplantis, and he's got the deepest respect for like the sacred scriptures, but he's so silly and he's so funny, and he brings in all these anecdotes, and he's as good as any stand-up comedian. And so refreshing. And regarding like things like light language and stuff, even though I have made a few silly references.
I don't always share the videos.
No. But I have actually got I have looked at, I think the official term for speaking in tongues, what have you, I think it's called glossalia. Is that how you pronounce it? I have actually studied this, and I do believe there is massive authentic power in there when you can bypass the language receptors in your brain, and I think it might maybe much like the acting thing again. You can start doing it, and at first you will feel really foolish, and it's just silly, and it's just me stringing together these random syllables. But I think the more you do it, you can actually shock and surprise yourself. I have looked at this. I don't really speak to you about this, Petra, but I have actually investigated that quite a lot, and I do actually think there can be physical sensations which happen in your body once you get into that frequency and in that vibe. It's like tuning a radio station, and sometimes it can come through so powerful that you actually scare yourself and you stop and you're like, what the heck just happened there? That's crazy. So I have actually got enormous respect for, you know, glossalia, light language, speaking in tongues. It is a fascinating topic.
Well, it will change your brainwave state. It will change the brainwave state. But Daniel does record these really silly little videos sometimes where he's, you know, taking the mickey out of New Age people. And he did do a light language one, and I sent it to my family, and they all send me back messages saying I'm literally wetting myself. And I do send it to a few select friends, and they'll be laughing. Please share it. But I just haven't shared those fully, you know, on Facebook, and because, oh, I don't know. It's just I think perhaps sometimes Daniel goes a bit too far. Especially,
It's the thing, though. Maybe
language, don't you? How would you feel? Sorry, don't mean to interrupt you. How would you feel if I sent you a video of Daniel going? Blah, 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 blah?
No. That's
would
clearly
love
silly.
it. I would love it. I would
No,
love it.
it's way more sophisticated than that, and I wouldn't just no. But here's the thing: I could be doing it to be goofy, but this is the ultimate way to go under the radar. Maybe I'm actually releasing something real, and nobody will ever detect it. It's hidden in plain sight, man. You know what I'm saying? Just a thought, or maybe I am just being a jerk. I don't know. Shall we crack on with another question?
Yeah. Do we have another question?
Okay. So this is from a lady called Alison. And she'd like your thought. Are you still laughing, you
We've
two?
got the giggles, haven't we, Nina?
No, this is, we got to get back.
Okay.
All right, class is in session. Playtime's
Okay.
over.
We'll mention.
So this is, oh my God, I got the crazy redheads in stereo today. I don't know what to I got to get back in the zone, man. This is right. Okay, so this is from Alison, and she'd like your thoughts on something because she's been kind of studying everything that's been going on in the world recently, and she's worried that something is going to happen. So she wants your thoughts on this. So this is what she writes. Alison writes that she's worried that the current health situation in the world is a psyop, in the sense that the dark forces are creating chaos by deliberately using reverse psychology to confuse people with inconsistencies and encourage people to be rebellious and to not conform with all the health advice. She believes that the plan could be to then release a new real threat, and that because so many people believe that the authorities of the world have been crying wolf, they will then be caught unawares. So she'd like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. And, you know, the truth of the matter is we have psyop on psyop on psyop on psyop. There are multiple layers. It's very difficult to lay out the plan and say, this is what the cabal are doing. They're going to do this, and then when we do this, they'll do that and that. They have multiple different plots and plans, and they will layer them on top of one another. They will present them at the same time. And the Alliance, White Hat, Service to Others, Starseed movement, we are all making our moves individually and collectively in response. So there's validity in this viewpoint, and I do feel it is part of the dark plan. So I would say yes. Is it actually going to happen? As in the aware individuals, if another actual virus was released, would the aware individuals not believe it and then not take any precautions and then get sick? When it comes to individuals who are in alignment, highly unlikely. And I would say to the point that this wouldn't happen, because they would pick this up in their different various ways, and then the spiritual speakers and the psychics would speak to the other people, and individuals would align with that, and that would go down as a message. So if that was an alert, and it's interesting that this has been asked, because let's take that as an alert now. This question's been asked, so yes, it's part of the dark plan. So I would say to every truther and every single light worker, be aware that this is part of it, and stay in that alignment. So that the Nine said to me the other day, I said, will we be harmed? You know, what is coming? You've said this is the most challenging time for humanity since the beginning of our known history. It's on a par to Atlantis. Will we be harmed? And they're saying to me that this is the harm for most of us, or for a large amount of us, is to do with our own emotions and the fact that we haven't dealt with our own shadow. So we're watching things play out. We're in this movie that we are sort of taking part in, and we're reacting to everything. So we're harming ourselves with all our reactions. So if we can work with our own reactions and we can watch everything play out as if we're in an integrative movie system and we're one of the characters within that, but if we can watch everything play out from the observer viewpoint and temper those emotions, then we won't be harmed in that sense. And so I said, well, what about actual physical harm? You know, will we be taken from our homes? We'll be thrown in a prison-like hospital and forced to do things. You know, that's what I mean. And the 9 said,
Right.
not if you are in alignment with that higher conduit, that higher knowing that runs through you. You will be guided and everything will be playing out. And the character that you play in that movie is the one who dodges those potential threats and stays within the aligned place and is able to offer assistance. Is one of the, you know, Florence Nightingale angel type of healers, the true nurses of light, helping the others. So but will some people be harmed? I mean, you know, that's already happened, and yes, going forward. But this isn't as in global harm. No, it's just not in the timeline. What do you think, Nina?
I see the same exact thing. I realize that some people signed up for certain physical lessons or experiences, or that they will be transitioning off the planet, but that is their individual soul contract. That doesn't have to do with all of us being harmed. And also, just exactly as you said, if we are in alignment and we are listening inside, which is also why through the ascension process, there's so much galactivation occurring, where the inner ears are being activated, the inner eye is being activated, the inner knowing, all the chakras are being lit up, and our frequency is literally shifting, and we are tuning into the galactic station. And as we are tuned more indirectly to that station, to that frequency, we're getting very clear about, okay, I don't trust all of these other vibrations and frequencies outside of me. I trust this channel, and this channel guides me moment to moment. So that might mean that you're in California and there's fires all around you, and maybe you're being told directly, leave. And if something in you thinks, oh, well, I can stay and call in the angels, and yes, you can, but if that channel keeps telling you leave, that is the Starseed Galactics, that is the Galactic Federation of Light. That is also how they assist us. The same as if they say, you're safe, stay, you're covered, that means listen to that. And so, and they're speaking to us in extreme manners. The intensity of it is being turned up. I have actually literally heard alarm bells go off to the point where I was like, I'm hearing sirens. And they were like, yeah, we're trying to get your attention. Or they'll start, your body will start going into like anxiety or panic because they're trying to get your attention. So if something were to happen that shifted things and there really was a virus released or a plan to take us all out, we would all know, because we're not listening to the news. We're not listening even to Q. I mean, it's a part of it, but it's direct access. In this ascension process, we have to learn to trust what's on the inside and our own connection to source. Yeah. And that means that as you're guided by that each and every moment, you will be in alignment. You will be in the right place at the right time. You will absolutely be kept safe. I do not see a massive manslaughter. I do not see that at all in the timeline. And actually, when I start thinking about it, I kind of start giggling because I know it's not true. And my future self is like, no, you're really having a ball over here right now, you know, dancing with the new earth with everybody. No, this is an extremely hard process because we're doing it in a physical manner. And what I find to be very difficult about this is I find the ascension symptoms to be very intense. I feel electric most days, as though I am walking with electricity. It's buzzing. It's, you know, I think I'm going to burn out. I find that to be uncomfortable and intense. But I'm so grateful for it because we need these things to get through this, to have these gifts and to have our gifts activated. So Yes, I completely agree with what you said, Magenta.
Wow, thank you so much, Nina. I absolutely resonate with everything you said, and that was explained so well. Yes, thank you. And I agree. It's like you look at these potentials that are part of the dark plan and all these different psyops upon psyops, and then you look at the timelines and think, well, no, they're not there in the future. But we need to get this paradox, this duality of understanding it's what they want to do to us, and it's what they're trying to do to us. However, we rise above that and decide, no, we're not going to allow you to do this to us. And there are many ways that we can stand in that sovereignty. We can take to the streets. We can, take people to court and go through the justice system, but we can work spiritually as well. And just seeing the timeline, the eventuality where this doesn't happen, assists us to align with it and create it. So yes. It's a great question, and I think there's absolute validity to it, and I think it was really, really great of this person to write this down. And I'm glad you chose this question to talk about, Daniel, because I do think it's important to understand that yes, this is part of it. This person has seen part of this psyop, part of this dark plan. And now we need to, because it's been seen, because when something hasn't been seen, it's going under the radar. So we might miss it. Maybe that could slip through into a manifestation. But the minute we see it, we can change it. We've observed it and we think, okay, that's what you want to do, is it? Okay, let's change our viewpoint to its antidote. That's what the Starseeds are doing. Yes. And as for Q is wonderful, but Q is one voice in a sea of voices, and it's very important for every individual to listen to many voices. And so there's always another perspective. So Q is a huge part of all of this, but is not the only voice. The main voice is your own, obviously. So thank you, Daniel.
Okay, so that was a question from Alison. Thank you, Alison. And that naturally kind of segues into the final question today. Hopefully there's an optimistic response to this. Okay, so this is from Leynad. Leynad, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I don't know if that's a guy or a girl. And Leynad writes, I have a friend who point blank tells me that if the current US president is not re-elected, then the entire world is fudged. They didn't write fudged. Game over. The Cabal's plan will take effect, and we are all doomed.
Is this you asking this question? Leynad is Daniel backwards. Come on, admit it. Is this you asking this question?
She's smart.
It is, isn't it? Because we've talked about this. Daniel and I have talked about it. Is it? Be honest. It's Leynad. That's Daniel backwards. Come on. It's your question. Just be honest.
Well, it's based on something I heard somebody say.
But you asked the question and Leynad is you.
No, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Look, it's good to discuss. I think it's a really, really important one. So Daniel and I have had this.
I heard somebody say that, and it was.
It's me, I think.
I'll leave you both to it. I'm going to mute myself.
No, don't. I think you need to speak on this one. You need to come back. We've had a discussion where I've said many times to Daniel, no, I think you should come back, Daniel, and actually give your perspective, because I think your perspective is really valid to hear.
Here I am.
So we've spoken, and I've said, if Trump doesn't win the election, it's game over. We're done for. It's like, this is the only way that we can move forward. And when you look at the great sort of entire plan here, if the deep state were to get into the American presidency, then they can undo everything that Trump has done and close everything back down and come back in with this. And it will no longer be an attempted planetary takeover. It will be an actual planetary takeover, because they will have the top spot, if you will. And I don't see it. I don't see that happening. I see Trump winning. I see him winning. If the election goes ahead, I've always said I'm still not 100% sure that it will. There's issues fluctuating in the time timeline about that. There's something
Yes.
strange happening, but if it goes ahead, I see him winning. So therefore, I have said, if he doesn't win, then it's all doom and gloom and disaster and game over. But that's because I'm looking at the eventuality I see. Everything else sort of crumbles around that timeline because it just simply doesn't exist. I'm not being negative. And I do agree with what Daniel is saying because he sees something different. What do you think, Nina?
So based on the timeline that we're talking about right now, I do see that if Trump doesn't win, that is what the plan is. And so we would be looking at, that would be, yes, we would be taken over. That is their plan. But is there another possibility? Yes, there are many possibilities. I have honestly wondered if the election won't happen and if possibly the event occurs before, because it seems like the ascension is just accelerated at this super fast rate right now. I've also wondered if there will possibly be a delay. It seems like there's a very probable delay is what I'm seeing.
Yes.
And it feels as though we're also able to skip some things that were in the plan because maybe we don't need to do that to wake up. So that feels quite good. But if he lost and if the cabal were to take over, do I see other possibilities? Yes, I do. I see possibilities of our galactics assisting us. I see possibilities of some of us possibly sort of going through an event process because our frequency and our resonance and our vibration is no longer in alignment with the cabals. But Gaia as a starship, her ascension energy, her frequency is so high. I mean, if you are connected to what she's going through right now, it's like, wow. So there's no way really that can exist any longer because she's chosen something entirely different.
Yes.
So there's going to have to be a great purge, which is what is occurring. And those of us that she is connected to, that belong to her, that are her galactic family, her guardians, that are her children, her royalty, that she is wanting to give this back to because we're stewards of her. We are with her and we are going with that starship and we are going where she goes. And unless it is instant destruction and then rebirth, which could possibly be even like a flash of light or something, more like a frequency shift, or Merkaba gets activated, and there's so many possibilities. But no, I do not in any way see this as the Lemurian Holocaust all over again, and then they're going to attack everybody that loved Trump. No, I think it's, once again, I just start laughing because I just won't accept it. In my being, it doesn't exist. And there's no way that we would have gotten this far and learned everything that we have for Source to go, yeah, I'm just gonna let you all go to the slaughter. No. And besides, guys, it's funny to me when people always say, oh my gosh, Nina, are they gonna kill us? I'm like, all right. So if you believe in past lives, which I know most of you do, and everybody that has heard you and I've given sessions to, and we all know, how many lifetimes have we been slaughtered and led to, and we just kept coming back. So it's like, no, that's not what we're doing. This is the full circle karmic completion of all of the lifetimes, the remembrance, the awakening, and the ascension. So that is what we're doing. People don't need to be worried. And that fear is really, I understand the fear. I really do. I really do. But if you can get out of it and look at it and observe it and connect to your heart and really connect and ask, whether it be through prayer or through your meditation, you will clearly see and clearly know through the vibration that is existing on the planet from Gaia herself. Go outside, touch her, talk to her. She will let you know that there is absolutely nothing in that that is going to happen. That is that reality of the cabal getting into charge and taking over our lives. And no, absolutely not. I do not see it. And just in case Trump didn't win, I still don't see it. I will not accept it.
Now, I think what we're looking at here is a win-win scenario, and that's what you're talking about. We have an eventuality that is going to happen, and we're looking at the different ways that that eventuality can actually manifest energetically, and the most likely possible way that that eventuality can actually manifest is for Trump to win the election, or for something different to happen regarding the election where the cabal do not have control. So that's what I meant when I said if they win, we're doomed, because I'm then shifting away from a win-win scenario and looking at what may happen on a third dimensional level. But that isn't what I see as a possibility or even a probability, because the energetics of this planet are so high, as you said. Everything that's manifesting is matching that energetic, which gives us a win-win scenario. But Daniel, do share your perspective. By the way, you're getting darker and darker.
Yes, you're getting very dark.
It's
Sorry, it's
now. You haven't got the lights on.
No, it's the light is on. It's just the strange magic that I'm drawing in. No, hang on. I will turn the light on. Just chat amongst yourselves.
But yeah, we've talked about this, because I go into sort of sometimes a 3D way of thinking, you know, and I'll say things that I wouldn't necessarily say, you know, when I'm sort of talking in front of the camera. I might say to Daniel, oh, if Trump loses, we're doomed, you know, and he's like, that's a really negative thing to say. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm not being negative. I'm just looking at this particular timeline and the energy that matches that timeline. And then he will say, you know, his perspective. And to be honest, we're saying the same thing, really, just coming in from a different angle. But Daniel, please, Leniad, please share your secret question that you didn't think I would work. You thought I'd fall for that. You thought I would think it's actually a person called Leniad, which is your name backwards.
I mean, you're married to her. Like, you must know she can crack the codes.
Yeah, come on, mate. You can't pull that one over on me.
My headphones are goofed up. The bit of foam has come.
Oh, just take them off then.
Silly. Okay. I was going to say, I have tremendous optimism. This whole weird year I've been speaking with Magenta about, it's like a sine wave, and we get a bit of hope and then it dips, a bit of hope and then it dips, and then the hope goes up, 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 up. And I've said, you got to watch out, because you think it's going up and then it will go down lower than it ever was. And it's like the pattern is becoming so erratic now that it's got everybody jumping from one foot to the next, thinking like, are we getting back to normal? Are things getting better? Or are they getting worse? Every time you turn on the news, every time you look at any internet site, everything is inconsistent. It doesn't marry up. It's literally like just a lottery what news article you land on, whether it's got a positive or a negative inclination in it. And it's just like, some days it's just like, I can't, there's only so much I can read, because it's like you can get up in the morning, feel absolutely fine until you turn on your computer or the television. But I've got a tremendous optimism that, and this isn't meant in any way to be flippant to all the suffering that's taken place or all the suffering that may yet take place, but I have this fantastic, irrepressible optimism that even if the political scenario and situation goes a way that a lot of people feel is not good, I still feel like even in the sine wave will go so low, it will be subterranean. It'll be off the charts low. But then I think this sweeping movement could bring it back higher than it's ever been. And I'm not saying that it needs to go crazy low in order to come up really high, but I remember David Wilcox speaking one of his talks about, in script writing, in movie script writing, there's always this element they put in, and it's called the scent of death. And it's when all hope seems lost, and there doesn't seem any way out of the bad situation. and it's game over for the protagonists, for the hero. And then some turn of events will come around, often in a really unorthodox way, and everything will be restored, or there'll be some compensation. And it's like, none of us know how anything's going to play out exactly. You can get inclinations. There's certain events in history, I'm sure, which are so powerful that they can send out shockwaves both into the future and into the past. Right now, though, it is like we're all in a purgatory. We're in an uncharted zone of the Matrix, and there doesn't seem to be that many messages coming in from anywhere. It's almost like we're just on a blank canvas, and it's up for grabs. Anybody, how they choose to play this narrative. It's literally like somebody's at some mad cosmic keyboard rewriting the script every 5 minutes, and we're just all the actors, and we're like, just a minute, I already rehearsed my lines. And you get up the next morning and it's all changed, and it's like, who's writing this crazy play? And sometimes it's great, and sometimes, and it's literally on a sometimes an hour-to-hour basis how you're going to feel about it. But me, I've got this tremendous optimism that regardless of what happens, it will be overwhelming. And it's only on the other side of it that we will see the glorious design of everything that's happened, everything that's happening. And I don't want to be naive, because like something could come about in 24 hours time that, and I'll look like a jerk, because I don't know. all I can say is I feel like I sense this optimism coming from the future that's so powerful that I'm getting caught up in it before the event. And I don't claim to have any kind of highly skilled perception, but I think there's certain things that everybody can sense.
Yeah.
And that's just me throwing that out there for you. So there you go.
And you think that will occur no matter what? So even if the eventuality of DT not winning an election, you still think that positive energy you're sensing is in our future? And that's what I would call a win-win situation, regardless of the outcome. But what I would add is the win-win situation is in itself going to create the highest outcome, which has to be him winning. I mean, do you see how it's all sort of tied up?
I can see how everything,
other eventuality, but
I can see how everything interrelates, and how much things are wished for and desired for, and often a lot of people saying it's already written the way it's going to go and you don't need to worry. But not through any particular design or trying to bury my head in the sand. I just don't feel like it's healthy always to be so attached. I don't want to be overly attached to an outcome months before. If you can do some work and just play devil's advocate and entertain every possible scenario in your head, even if you have got I've got absolutely no doubt that the sun will come up tomorrow. There's no way the laws of physics and nature are going to rearrange themselves overnight and the sun will never come up again. But you have to play these abstract ideas out in your head. I think if we've learned anything from the past year or so, it's that any unanticipated thing can come around. And I also think after all this is played out, in whatever way it does, I've got no idea the time frame. I think more than likely it'd be a bunch of gradual steps, and it's only looking back we can see how everything built on each other. I mean, obviously with the election, that will literally be a manic few days when all the votes are being counted, and are they verifiable? Has it all been corrupt? Is there going to be this talk about a civil war? I mean, it's like it's always brewing. The division, and everybody's planning in advance how cross they're going to be, and how they're going to, if this happens, I'm going to do that. And I think in a nutshell, you've got to smell the roses. You've got to go outside and smell the roses, because we could be caught up in the repercussions of whatever political changes take place our entire lives. And do you want your entire life to be about people in suits on pedestals, on lecterns, debating back and forth? And it's like, yes, there are political players that come around, and they are exceptional. We've seen this. They do seem to be chosen by the divine to play out a very unique role. But I just want to be in a place where I'm not so overly attached to the outcome that I can't enjoy my human existence here. I don't know, maybe that sounds a bit muddled. Who knows?
I think it sounds great. Honestly, I feel like I've had to have this sort of talk with myself too. Like, what am I attached to, the outcome or the divine? I'm attached to source and to the divine. And so beyond everything happening outside of me and us in this world, everything that we're seeing, that's always what I'm looking to. And that is sort of this blind walk of faith that I think we're all having to learn collectively together. And what a brilliant teaching and opportunity to learn that. And we are learning it. And that's what's so exciting.
It is exciting, and it's also really distressing. It's both simultaneously, which is the paradox.
Yes.
And it's like, but the best lessons are often the tough ones. And it does suck. It sucks when you're going through it. It is terrible.
Right? Initiation sucks. I mean, and we all love to talk about initiation. And in the New Age and spiritual communities, people would throw this word around all the time and go, well, we don't have initiations here. I don't know if you both ever heard that, but that was a classic thing I heard all the time. We used to have initiations and we don't have them anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, really? We don't have initiations anymore? Because from what I see, we have our individual initiations that we've all gone through in preparation for this time, which are often, it's like seeing it from the filter of going, oh, I wasn't a victim. I'm not a victim. That's an initiation. It was an initiation. We're going through the same thing right now. But we wouldn't be going through this initiation process unless we were up to the challenge. Exactly. And what I have found amazing about this is that I think that it's caused all of us to learn more than, I've learned more through this entire experience than I ever learned in school, and been challenged on levels I've never been challenged, and feel stronger and more grounded and connected to the divine, to the source than I ever have, and confident, and seeing it happen to so many people that were feeling like they didn't fit in this world and they didn't fit into the 3D matrix because we never were meant to. And now suddenly we're working on this quantum level of quantum intelligence, and we're using our psychic abilities and our inner eyes and our inner ears and our inner knowing to play this game. And it's absolutely brilliant. So yes, it's distressing, but you can have a whole lot of fun with it too.
And we've packed so many lifetimes globally into this year, into 2020. It's like everyone in different degrees are living multiple experiences that would take so many lifetimes for them to go through. So that, of course, is a very rapid initiation and a series of initiations. I personally see Donald Trump so wrapped up with the ascension process and the inevitability. So it lines up for me. But I do know that it is very important not to be attached to an outcome. So, you know, if you are thinking, oh, Trump has got to win because if he doesn't, it's going to be awful. Whilst that may well be the case, when you actually look at the logic of the third dimension, that isn't how we're going to manifest it. So what we need to do is look at the outcome we want, which is ascension, which is awakening, which is freedom, liberty, and whoever gets into power, or there may not even be a political party at all within that reality, but that's the whole new earth, fifth dimension. That's what we want, but we also need to move into the other timeline or multiple other timelines and look and think, well, they're just as good. So basically, if Donald Trump doesn't win the election and the deep state actually do, but hey, guess what? Something happens, and that it's not necessarily the timeline we want, but it's just as good. It's a win-win situation. That's a hard one to get your head around, because I don't see that eventuality at all. I see the Trump winning as the most probable timeline, but the way to get to that probable timeline is to not mind whether it manifests or not, and be open to all these different eventualities that are all just as good. Now, if we can do that collectively as starseeds, if we can genuinely step back and not be clinging on to one eventuality, one outcome or one timeline, and we can take that step back, then we are manifesting in very powerful ways on a very high collective level. And we will manifest the timeline that we want. There is no other outcome that can be the possibility. We will manifest the one that we want, and that's where we're heading, which is why I'm saying this is a win-win situation for manifestation. But thank you, Leonard, for asking that question, because I do think it needed to be spoken about.
Thank you, Leonard, for asking that. I hope that gives you some
thank you, Leonard.
So that's the last question then. Yeah, wow, what an interesting discussion this has been, with some lovely words from Catzmagick and some excellent bits of humour popped in here and there. And Nina, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a delight to have you. Oh yeah, Daniel's got to do this.
Thank you.
He always laughs. He said, why do you always do this at the end of your...
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Nina, it's been a pleasure. You've been amazing. Honestly, thank you so much. I hope everyone's enjoyed it who have listened to us today. So
I feel like Catzmagick is like the Mad Hatter. I really do.
Actually, strangely, my T-shirt, it's Guns N' Roses, but look, there's a Mad Hatter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Spooky dookie.
Crazy husband.
Yes.
Oh dear. Well,
you summon me into your life if you ain't pleased.
Summon me into your life.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to get a return. It's not as easy as Amazon.
Well, I think you've coped admirably well with the double redhead female energy today, Daniel. So, hats off to you for that. Thank you to everyone who's listened to us today.
Thank you.
Have a bit of fun, and hopefully it hasn't all just been giggles and silliness. Hopefully you have been inspired in some way as well. So thank you for listening. So bye to everyone. Stop recording now.